Throughout the years I've been playing City Skylines, people have asked me how I can play on the same city for so long without getting bored. It seems a lot of people are excited when they start a new city, but as time goes by and they start having their first serious traffic issues, or they realize the city is not looking the way they thought it would look, they kind of get bored and quit halfway to create another city without really having created anything interesting or achieving any sort of fulfillment. Hey guys, Target here, and in this video I've compiled some of the best ideas that I use every time I create a new city. The tips that I'm about to share with you are general guidelines that I follow when I create a brand new city that keep me motivated to keep coming back and work on it day after day to its fullest potential. My approach involves a lot of pre-planning and envisioning, trying to visualize in my head how I want my city to look like, and every hour of gameplay is spent working towards trying to rebuild that visualization in-game. Keep in mind, this is the way I personally enjoy playing City Skylines and is by no means the way you should play it too. I do think, however, the information in this video could be useful to make people reflect on how they play the game and maybe find new motivating ways to build efficient and good looking long-term cities. But without further ado, let's begin. Step number 1. Pick an appropriate map. My first step is to decide what type of city I want to make and pick an appropriate map for it. Different maps have different features which will make or break your city if you don't give it enough thought. Remember, in real life, cities adapt to the terrain and its features. Although it's just a video game, most of this logic applies to City Skylines as well, and the map you pick will essentially define the look and purpose of your city. If you want to make a big metropole with lots of high-density apartments and dense road structures or grids to reach the highest population possible, flat maps with very little elevations are perfect for this, as they let you build freely with very little terraforming. If you're going for a more countryside, small town look with organic looking curvy roads, hilly maps with lots of mountains and elevation changes can be pretty fun, as they force you to adapt your roads to the terrain and create very interesting shapes. Industrial sites are usually located on the outskirts of the city and next to the sea with easy connections to highway and rail, so they can export and import cargo by ship, truck and train. Touristic sites are usually located in historic sites with monuments or next to leisure areas such as beaches, almost always with lots of commercial areas where visitors can shop. If you don't know what city you are going to make, get inspired with real-life cities and creations. The city or town or even village you currently live in has for sure some unique features that can be used as inspiration. Google Maps is a great tool to study road layouts as well. Another thing to keep in mind is map resources and outside connections. Resources let you build specialized industry that provide your city with particular materials that can be used by your city businesses or exported for profit. For example, if you want to build an oil digging industrial town, you need to make sure the map you're picking has oil underground. If you want to have some farms, the map has to have fertile land. Outside connections are the points in the map people will use to travel in and out of your city. Every map has one or more highway connections, but not every map will have a ship, airplane or rail connection. Nobody will find it enjoyable to make a touristic city with lots of beaches having cruise ships as the most fulcral access point, only to find out later that the map they picked does not have a ship connection, so study the map before committing to it. The new game screen will tell you which natural resources and outside connections a particular map has. But if you want more details on these features, such as their exact location on the map, these can only be found when you start the game, and even so, information is limited as most of it can only be accessed in the natural resources and transportation tabs of the Info Views panel, which are not available when you start a brand new city. To work around these issues, something I like to do when picking a map is to create a scout game, with the unlimited money and unlock all mods that come with the base game. With these mods, I can not only have immediate access to the natural resources and transportation tabs and identify the precise locations of these features, but also purchase every relevant tile in the map, which allow me to zoom in on the terrain and take a closer look at the overall geography of the map. If you don't like playing with mods, just close the scout game without saving after you gather all the relevant information and disable the mods. You could also look up for map information online. You can get more maps by purchasing additional DLCs or by downloading maps made by other players from the Steam Workshop. If you're looking for something very specific, you can also make your own maps in the map editor. Step 2. Envision the final product of your city. After deciding what kind of city I want to make and after picking up my map, I then try to visualize how I want my final city to look like. I don't try to define where every single road will go exactly, but I try to have a basic idea of what and where the most important areas, zones and services will be. In other words, we do some urban planning. If you are playing without any mods, remember that you only have 9 tiles available, so you'll have to decide beforehand what will be the 9 tiles you will be purchasing in the long term. Keep in mind that your city should be confined in this limited space. Also remember that in order to unlock tiles you need to reach a certain population, with the 9th and final tile being locked behind the 90,000 population milestone. So if you're planning to build a small village with only a couple dozen thousand citizens, you won't be able to work on a geographically big area unless you enable a few mods to unlock other tiles. I will be using the 25 tiles mod, so I'll plan having this potential area in mind. In this map, I have some beaches on the left side which we can turn into tourism areas. We can take advantage of the ship connection here to place some industry at the edge of the map, which is also served by rail. The northern area has ore available, so we can make a specialized ore industry. We can complement the tourism area with generic commercial in the center to provide shopping places for our visitors and also leisure commercial along the docks. We could even add an amusement park next to it. As this is the busiest part of the city, it will also be perfect to have the main office district close to it. The central area is going to be the main living area with high density residential, and the suburbs will be located throughout the city outskirts with low density residential. The mountains and hills to the south will be perfect to create some old towns and villages. I also have a lot of fertile land to the right side, so perhaps I can create a farming industry around this area since I also have a rail connection there. These farms will also serve as workplaces for our uneducated citizens living in the nearby villages. Power plants can also go here somewhere. The airport will require a lot of space, so it could be built at the edge of the map to the right side. Please keep in mind that this is a general idea of what the city will look like. I have many times changed my mind after starting the city because I had came up with a better idea or the initial plan didn't turn out as well as I had predicted. For example, instead of building the airport in my initial location, I could sacrifice some leisure and office space to build it in a tourism area for easier access to the hotels and main commercial zones. Adjust and adapt as necessary. Step 3. Plan the main highway network. Traffic management is hands down the true challenge of the game. I find a lot of people play their city until the point where they have their first big traffic issue. When they realize they cannot solve the issue without demolishing a significant part of the city, they stop playing that city because it's simply easier to start a new one and try again. But then it happens again and they start yet another city. And it happens again, and eventually they stop playing the game entirely. Traffic management deserves its own video, so I won't go into much detail here, but I can tell you this: the secret to almost perfect traffic is proper planning. As I've said before, I don't plan the location of every individual road in this stage, but I do plan the structure of the most important and most predominant roads, the highways. Highways are not only the roads people use to get in and out of your city while traveling by car, but they're also the fastest roads cars can travel in, meaning people will generally use them to travel from one point of the city to the other, as the AI is programmed to prefer faster routes. Areas that usually have high amounts of traffic are industrial zones and high-density residential and commercial. In these areas, the more access points you have connecting the city to your highways, the better, as you are dispersing traffic through several points instead of forcing it to converge into a specific road or avenue. This map already has a somehow adequate highway network, as the main industry areas already have highways next to them for easy access. However, because we will have a lot of high density in the middle, it could be a good idea to extend the initial highway alongside the island, with several access points along the way for more coverage, and eventually connect it with the main highway to provide another route to travel from one edge of the map to the other. If I do decide to build the airport in the center of the city, it could be a good idea to extend the highway there. If we have a lot of traffic activity in the commercial and tourism area, we can ultimately add yet another highway going through with several access points in the middle. We can even use tunnels for this highway segment so we don't sacrifice commercial zoning space. Looking at it this way, I'm thinking I can not only minimize the amount of traffic in the central highway, but also increase my profits by placing toll booths at the city entrance. This way, people who just want to cross the map will be encouraged to use the external highway, leaving the central accesses for people who want to get into the city itself. Something else I can plan at this point is the main rail network. I will want my ore industry to have rail access to facilitate exports, so I'll extend the network there. I will also connect the southern rail to the main eastern rail, so that I have a single global rail network that's connected to all corners of the region instead of two different and more limited rail systems. Step 4. Starting the city. After all the planning, then and only then I start building the actual city. Unless you're using mods that unlocked all the tiles from start, your building endeavors will be limited to a very small portion of the land. Most of the times, the tile you start on will not be aligned with the long-term objectives you have established for this particular map. For example, you might have initially decided to build the airport on this tile or even the tourism district, which are things that are not only not in demand at this point, but have also not been unlocked. That's why I usually start my cities with a starter town, a temporary settlement of low-density residential, industrial and commercial very close to each other, with the sole purpose of generating as much income and achieving as many early milestones as possible. When I have more tiles available and a decent sum in the bank, I transition the residential, commercial and industrial zones to their final locations and destroy the initial ones gradually, with minimal consequences to the city's economy. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. Of course, if you're using mods that unlock all your tiles from start, you will have more freedom when choosing the locations for your initial zones. Step number 5. Be patient and don't rush it. From here on out is just expanding the city and adapting to new demands. For the most time, I build my cities at a very slow pace. Whenever I rush things and try to develop a particular area as fast as possible, I feel I end up skipping on certain details that make the area not turn out as good as it could have been, or lead to something worse, such as traffic congestions due to poor road layout planning on my part. These small things make me personally lose interest in the city, so I try to work and detail every area to make it unique and special before moving on to the next. If I'm not in the mood to play like this, I simply avoid playing. I see City Skylines as a game to chill and relax. It's not a competitive game and I'm not here to break records. And I know most of you share the same opinion. My recommendation would be to think of every area individually. Work on it, detail it, plant some trees, add cute small parks. Take the time to terraform that perfect hill. Take the time to place those bushes perfectly aligned with that road. All these little things are personal time investments that, when you put them in your city, makes it special and unique, and eventually motivates you to keep coming back to it. Alright guys, that's pretty much what I do when starting a new city I plan on playing for a long period of time. I hope this video has somehow helped you, or at least gave you inspiration to try new approaches of playing City Skylines. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again in the next video. Have a good one and, as always, have fun!